Welcome to the Takeoff Podcast, the go-to construction podcast for construction professionals seeking inspiration, education, or motivation for the next steps in their career. Each Monday, you'll be joined by me, Mick Donaghy, Managing Director of Gedden Executive Recruitment and a respected name from the industry, a construction leader, a business owner, or someone in the thick of the action. The whole premise of this podcast is for you to get something from it, an idea, a connection, a mentor, whatever it is. I hope you get it, and I hope you enjoy the show. Without further ado, let's get into it. For me, old school principles work in many ways. I feel like, we've got to understand what the new normal is, but still the fundamental of talking to each other, building good communication skills, I think that it creates a healthier human being rather than someone who's just behind a WhatsApp screen in a dark room on a Tuesday afternoon. I just find that would be so depressing, and my own journey, like with social media, I used to be one of these guys that would post all the time on Instagram.
So my philosophy is trying to join the dots, either directly or indirectly. And that as a pathway has certainly stood me in good stead. I would hope that, and I know others out there that do have a similar sort of philosophy. Business development or marketing yourself is an art. It's not just a question of having a chat and a coffee and then expecting something to walk through the door. There is an art to it, and it is about more so here about that relationship, developing that relationship, and not just having that conversation around business, but understanding the person behind the mask or the facade, and family, school, and sport, and all that sort of stuff. Generally, I like to have a 5-minute conversation about work, but the next hour is about what else is going on in the world.
Communicating with people when you don't need them. I think it's quite transparent, when people can see that there's a reason for this. It's kind of like building friendships as well to some extent. The deeper the relationship, the better in many cases. How do you think that's going to maybe impact construction over the next number of years?
I was having this conversation with an architect the other day, actually. He potentially sees people like planners as having a massive impact on their business. I think there'll be pockets that will have a major impact, but I also think there'll be pockets where that human element will override the AI component. So it's coming. Everybody knows it's coming. Where that's going to land and who that's going to land with, I don't know.
I put something out last year about how I think AI is going to change the industry. Some people took a bit of offense to it. It is going to make an impact in one way or another. My opinion, I would hope it doesn't make the impact that people are predicting. I think that if we are focusing on anything, the thing that we should be able to focus on is relationships and being able to communicate and being able to do those things like your client development. You mentioned it's an art. Have you any thoughts on that, Andrew?
In terms of, client development, etc.?
Yeah, client development, communication, and how important that is to the industry.
Well, so break that down. I said not that long ago, I was talking to my team, and I said, I was actually schooled in how you would walk into a room of 1,000 people and you'd be able to, or 500 people, and you'd be able to, in those days, work the room. LinkedIn didn't really, it was probably in its infancy. And I had a great mentor in the UK who was very good at being able to walk into that theatre, that environment, and be able to make connections and then grow those connections, and how you did that and work out, that you may not be talking to the right person or the right in the right role, but actually use those people that you have worked with and to have a relationship who would then gladly help you out to get you to the right person or the right company. So they laughed at me when I said, work in a room. But that's what we used to do way back when. And again, that enjoyment of meeting people and was part of that component. And still many of my clients in the UK are still our friends now, and I will catch up with them when I go back. There's no work there for me, but it's ultimately that the relationship and that friendship overrides all of that. Most of our problems in the construction world exist because of communication or lack of it or miscommunication or whatever it may be. And I think that the way we communicate and how we communicate, going back to what I said earlier on about the human element, we can resolve those problems a lot easier. We can also mitigate a lot of those problems at the front end by, again, having that level of interaction, understanding. I always have those conversations with people, be it a client or a team member, and I will always lead that with any questions. You happy with that? Everybody understands what we're doing and the timescale that we're doing it to. Speak now, and we want to hear your input, that kind of stuff, because that two-way street is key and critical to not having any issues down the track. But I do believe firmly that a lot of the problems are caused by miscommunication or lack of communication or the style of communication.
Guys, I'm interrupting this podcast today to give you some information as to what I actually do every single day. So I own and operate a business called Get In Executive Recruitment. We're a specialist boutique recruitment company, and we specialize purely in the pre-construction and commercial construction markets globally. We're really well known and respected for our work in estimating, cost management, quantity surveying, and contract administration. Because we're hyper niche, we don't have millions of candidates. We don't really even have thousands, but more times than not, we have the right candidate for the right job at the right time. Unlike a lot of recruitment agents out there, we are super experienced in what we do. We understand the market, we understand what makes our clients tick, and our candidates tick too. Each and every single assignment we work on undergoes an extensive executive search process. It's robust and it works 100% of the time. We've also got a team of 5 researchers who map our markets out globally within our niche. They're amazing. They allow us to work fast, which saves our clients time and money too. So if you're interested in our process, drop us a message. Now back to the episode. What would you say, just from your experience in the industry, Mark, that makes a good project manager? And that might be something I'll ask you with regards to estimating. But just initially, what would you say makes a good project manager?
Communication. Communication is everything, and I mean that goes for any role, really. If you think about it, but communication. I mean, as the PM, you're the lead. So you've got your team internally. You need to be communicating, make sure everyone knows their role.
Yeah.
And then that goes with subbies, that goes with suppliers, that goes with consultants and the client. If you need to make sure everyone's on the same page, and the project flows so much better if you're communicating and keeping everyone up to date and, in line, so to speak, but just making sure that they're all doing their role.
Guys, I'm interrupting this podcast today to give you some information as to what I actually do every single day. So I own and operate a business called Get In Executive Recruitment. We're a specialist boutique recruitment company, and we specialize purely in the pre-construction and commercial construction markets globally. We're really well known and respected for our work in estimating, cost management, quantity surveying, and contract administration. Because we're hyper niche, we don't have millions of candidates. We don't really even have thousands, but more times than not, we have the right candidate for the right job at the right time. Unlike a lot of recruitment agents out there, we are super experienced in what we do. We understand the market, we understand what makes our clients tick, and our candidates tick too. Each and every single assignment we work on undergoes an extensive executive search process. It's robust and it works 100% of the time. We've also got a team of 5 researchers who map our markets out globally within our niche. They're amazing. They allow us to work fast, which saves our clients time and money too. So if you're interested in our process, drop us a message. Now back to the episode.
You need to understand the content that you're writing.
Yeah.
What you're writing about, especially when they're working in technical things, when it comes to reading methodologies. So we get the methodology that the client has written and rechunk it into something that we think that other people can read and want to read. And to do that, you do have to have a level of technical understanding. Otherwise, you're going to miss what actually is important. I think don't you think that's more important than just missing the point? You're going to miss what is actually important, and you're going to focus on the wrong things because you didn't understand how complex certain parts of it are. So I do think the writing is the hardest. I'm undecided now, and I don't know from your perspective, from recruitment, I'm undecided whether you can teach a writer construction or a construction how to write.
Wow. That's pretty tough. They're so different. I'm naturally a good writer, but it is quite tough. It's quite challenging. And I think I've reviewed or written over 1 million CVs in my life. And the difficulty is that if you've got one person who's project manager, and then you've got another person who's a project manager, it's trying to make them different and not just the same, because you can say like collaborative team player, but then you're going to have to try and think of a different way to describe the other person. So
I don't like having too many people reporting to me. So I kind of break it down into smaller groups and then allowing those groups to go and do their job. But they have to be working together in terms of the communication. Communication is key. And I think what we used to do, verbally back then, we now can do through other means, such as Teams meetings or obviously email, which is an imprecise form of communication. But definitely that face-to-face relationship is the key to delivering great projects still. And for me, it's also putting away ego, arrogance, hubris, all of those dark sides of a human personality that we all possess, that I possess to some degree, to be humble, to be listening, to be interested, to understand that the answer to a problem can come from anywhere. It's not I don't have to be the smartest person in the room. I don't have to be the know-it-all. I'm not anyway. But allowing other people to flourish in an environment where they feel safe to speak their mind. And, there's no kind of off-limit type conversations, because my role is to extract the best out of the vast talent that, we have at our disposal in our teams. As project teams get more diverse, more inclusive, more integrated, I need to ensure that I provide an environment where people feel safe to speak and are listened to. It doesn't always work. I'm not saying I'm perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but those kind of principles that I learned early on, I still apply today in a different dynamic.
Yeah. Some great points in there, Andrew. One of the things that I've done over 130 episodes with different leaders from the construction, civil engineering industries, mining industries. Communication seems to be just so important. It just seems to be the foundation of everything that we do from a project management perspective. So what do you typically look for when you're hiring a leader?
Well, I think the first thing to start off with is that leaders can come in all shapes and sizes and come from all directions. A lot of people, when they think of a leader, they think of somebody in an executive or senior position. That's not the case. Your leadership from anywhere. I believe management can be taught, but leadership for me is all about having strength of character and the ability to inspire and drive others to reach a common goal. But what I tend to look for in a leader is someone who has that credibility, who has substance, who has strength of character. However, can temper that strength of character with degrees of empathy and humility. We don't want, in this industry and nowadays, we don't want an authoritarian sort of almost dictatorship. We don't want that autocratic style of management.
What advice would you have for maybe trying to get one of those positions, Samantha?
Yeah, I asked myself the same thing. I was like, how did you land this? But I realized that in this role specifically, if you want to be in development, because there are so many stakeholders involved, you need to be incredibly good at communicating, and you're not expected to know everything as a graduate. As coming fresh out of university, everyone acknowledges that you're, pretty green to everything. So I wouldn't worry too much about, you obviously want to be technically competent, understand the fundamentals of whatever you're sort of applying for in that sort of space. But I would really encourage people to focus on being confident in how they communicate, being confident in who they are and the value that they bring. You don't need to have years of experience to bring value. I think if you're you've got tenacity and you take initiative, they're all really good qualities that you're able to offer to a company, even though you don't have years on years of experience for the role.
So how has your career changed, from being that young QS in Manchester to where you are now? Do you feel like you've evolved?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think it's just, I suppose, developing as an all-round professional in a sense. And it's the ability, like, say, to go out and speak to clients, but also to sit down with subbies and have hard conversations. You develop that experience over time, and those are the best communicators, I suppose, are the people who can change based on who they're speaking to. You can't be always that mean, angry guy, because that's not going to get you very far. It's been, and that's, I suppose, a little bit of the way I am. I can be a real grumpy sod when I want to be, but I can also just be a laugh and a bit of a giggle and have plenty of banter. So, I suppose that's the main way I've developed. I mean, I'm always keen to learn.
Yeah, and so that's exactly what I speak to people and I say, what's the most important? And they all come back and say it's communication.
Yeah.
Communication, like the ability to communicate, whether that's a hard topic, an easy topic,
Yeah.
whatever it is. But you know, those are the fundamental skills. That, you know, your measurement, your technical skills, they're all important.
Yeah.
But if you can communicate with someone effectively, or you can, you know, that again is building relationships. It's again allowing you to build relationships with the best people, all of those sorts of things. So
I do believe mentorship is a massive part of growth. Like I think in every stage of your career you can have a mentor, even if you're senior, you know, if you've got 20 years experience, I think there's still people there that can mentor you. And your mentor doesn't necessarily need to be someone older or more experienced. You know, you can have mentorship in different ways. You know, maybe you want to improve in your marketing. Is there someone there I can utilize? Maybe you want to improve, you know, your communication skills. And different things that we can use mentors for. I'm all about coaching, all about mentorship. Really, really important. So, in terms of, you know, your careers evolved over time. You know, you're starting to get more recognized on LinkedIn. You know, people are beginning to reach out to you, Angel. And at the same time, is your career sort of going in the direction that you wanted to go? Are you seeing sort of, you know, two positive angles here?
Yes. So being recognized on LinkedIn is, you know, it's great. I do feel like that's something that, you know, I will continue to do. I will continue to tell my story. I will continue to help people and document. I'm a big believer in documenting your successes, your failures, everything, because someone is definitely learning from, you know, from what you're doing. And for me, that's my driving force. It's not even being recognized or anything like that. It's knowing that at least I'm helping somebody make sure that they don't make the mistakes that I made or feel, you know, the way that I felt when I was just starting out. For me, that's my driving force. It's the same reason why I started to do online learning on LinkedIn, on Coursera. I was just, you know, making sure that I was learning about this new path that I wanted to take. And I was documenting as well. So when I was recommended for my first job and I applied, I did have, I wouldn't say the skills because I wasn't, you know, taught at uni, but I did have the passion for the role I was applying for. And I was able to communicate that to the interview panel that I'm actually studying this and I really want to, you know, give this a try.
Some businesses, obviously, the hierarchy and the org chart is different. But what I find is most times in firms, when you get to a senior QS perspective, you can either then branch off in two directions. At that point, you either go into an executive QS role, which is typically more someone that's more technical, you know, and knowledgeable in that area. The other side is the associate role. Both can end up going to associate director and then director. You could be a technical director on that, you know, executive QS route. But I feel the associate route is, you know, just as much as the technical side, but it's also people management, it's business development, all of those areas of the business. And yeah, of course, if you're going down that associate route, you need to start the building blocks of networking as soon as possible. The thing I struggle with is that some people are like, well, how am I going to get a job through, you know, this particular company? How do I get to the CEO of the company? Don't do that. Don't go straight to the head. Start at your project level. Take out the project manager for a coffee that's on your project, right? Because those building blocks of business development, it can be over many years of keeping in contact with people and the like. So it's definitely a long game of building that relationship, trust. Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Communicating with people when you don't need them. That's what I always say, you know, like that's how relationships are, you know. One of the things I'm really keen to understand is, you know, what you find makes a good project manager in today's market with these challenges that we're speaking about, Guy.
Yeah, look, I think problem solving, decision making that they need to do. You've got problem solving, decision making, and probably clear communication would be the three top attributes you'd need for a project manager.
And so within problem solving, what sort of challenges are you likely to face, you know, right now? Is it predominantly resources or is it
not just resources on a job? You know, you'll start working and you might have asbestos behind the wall, or mold is a big one at the moment that we're finding. With all the temperatures and the moisture around Brisbane, you've got to be able to seal that stuff up pretty quick. You've got to still keep with your program. You've just got to be able to think on your feet.
And is it similar with a site manager, or would you say site managers have a different set of priorities?
Yeah, look, as minor works project manager, we don't have too many site managers, but the site manager has to keep.
What made you want to go down the quantity surveying route as opposed to, say, going down the project management side?
The idea of just dealing with the money. I always, again, probably doing the limited bit of research that I knew, I had it in somewhere in my head that quantity surveyors have got potential to earn good money. Okay, what I seen as good money at that moment in time, and I just seen it as a decent career option, to be honest. And to be fair, it's working out okay so far, and I do enjoy that. I enjoy the interface and the communication with everyone on a project, whether that be client, supply chain, your day-to-day communication with your project management staff and stuff like that as well.
Well, one of the things I'm really interested in finding out, Joel, is what do you think makes a good project manager in today's construction market?
Communication is absolutely the top priority, because that skill, and it is a skill, and it's something that you can't be taught at uni. They can't teach you how to communicate and how to read other people and read the room and know your audience and communicate with all different types of stakeholders and parties at different times in different mediums. That the skill of communication is so important, because it allows you to communicate issues or risks or opportunities and be able to, I guess, coordinate with others, collaborate, problem solve together. You're not doing this on your own. You're part of a team as a PM. Your whole team is bringing all of these things to the table, and they might be problems, they might be opportunities, or it might be just even day-to-day things you need to be able to solve. And I guess listening is a big part of communication.
Before you go today, guys, I'm just going to ask you to do one thing. Can you please go to Apple right now or Spotify right now and just give us those 5 stars? Hit that 5-star button. It makes such a difference you wouldn't believe. The whole idea of this show is to inspire, educate, and motivate our listeners. And we only do that if we're getting the best guests. The best guests want to see data. They want to see information. They want to see how many listeners that we get. And so all of this stuff is really, really important. So if you can just literally go and do that today, if you enjoy the show, just go and hit that 5-star button. It makes such a difference. I hope you've enjoyed the show. We're going to continue to push this out there every Monday. So if you can, hit that 5-star button. And if you can't, even share it with a friend. Go on to WhatsApp, flick it on to your crew. Guys, thank you so much for listening. On to next week.